of January 28th, 2026 to order. Ms. Boucher, will you take the roll?
Yes. Ms. Campbell is absent for now.
She's on her way.
Mr. Dubois.
Here.
Ms. Hastings.
Here.
Ms. Higgins.
Here.
Ms. Meeker.
Here.
Ms. Fennell.
Here.
Ms. Sadowski. Here. Ms. Walsh.
Here.
And myself.
Can I make a quick, so I've been streaming some of our meetings, and sometimes we really aren't getting close enough to our microphones. So I'm noticing, for instance, Sarah doesn't have one near her. So I just want to make sure that, just to keep that in mind when you're.
Jess isn't here. Well, Jess is coming. Oh, she is. Yeah, she got stuck in
But
traffic.
just to kind of be aware of where the microphone is when we're talking. It's been hard to rewatch the stream.
I'm going to make a motion to amend the agenda to move the votes until after item 4. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Before we begin, I'd just like to take a moment to ask for a moment of silence. This is the 40th anniversary of the Challenger explosion and the loss of one of Concord's school teachers, Krista McAuliffe. Thank you. And I should say, and 6 other astronauts. We're going to start with school care renewal and the work the administration has been doing and looking at other options.
Sure. So we'll talk about the school care handout that you have. This is typically what we get annually for a renewal. We sign this and send this in. Obviously, this year with the assessment, there was a question as it related to that assessment. It's the first time in the 30 years of school care that there was an assessment. So we have a structured agreement with them to pay that assessment over potentially 2 budgets, but your first payment was December 31st, second by April 30th, and the other is on or before July 15th. We had Barslow, our consultants for healthcare. They have been with us since 2012. Come in and do a presentation to you a couple months ago, and you had directed that we go direct to school care. Direct to Cigna versus staying with school care and see what that rate would be. They also mentioned we could look at others, but you can't look at that until February. So the challenge becomes February 1st. You will see on here is the date for renewal. If you do not renew by February 1st, they will re-rate you because this becomes a domino effect of the loss insurance, and considering our size, it could adversely affect the rates that they would have, and would likely affect these rates that they have given to us. So, as your request, we went to Cigna, and Cigna came back, instead of a 10.2% higher on our, 9.4 on our yellow choice fund, and it's 19 on our yellow plan. They came back 27.6% higher. So you would be looking at an additional $2.5 million just for the rates, and then likely another $812,000 to fund the HSAs. The HRAs, and then another $18,000 in administrative costs, because you need to find someone that can manage the HSAs, the HRAs, the COBRA administration, the early retiree administration, and customer support. So that is where Cigna is. We don't know what the others will do. We're going to come back in the next 2 months, and Kirsty will do a presentation on going out to bid for the others. But I think for the moment, you're probably as it relates to healthcare, you're in the best, worst place you can be, or the worst, best place you can be, depending on how you want to see it.
And Mr. Dunn, just for clarity, the $2 million assessment is not built into our old base.
Correct.
So this is on the rates that we paid last year, or what we paid to school care last year minus $2 million.
Yeah, that's a separate assessment.
Okay.
Yeah, correct. So this is on average 10.2% higher than last year versus a Cigna, which would be 27.6% higher.
And could you just, for the public, go why we couldn't do a full bid in the time process and the time we had, and
Yep.
next potential steps?
Yep. So we can go Cigna Direct because Cigna is already the back end to school care. So school care is a risk pool that is a nonprofit that all the members pay in. I think there's 92 members total. Overwhelming number of them are school districts, but there are towns also that are involved in school care. And because Cigna already has the plan on the back end, it was much easier to take the data, because they had it, to quote that if we went direct and bypass school care. In order to go out to other vendors, we need to have a certain amount of data already, and that data will not be available until after February, because you have trailing claims. And most renewals are January 1 to December 31st, but for school districts, municipalities, their budget years are usually a July 1 to June 30. So there is some more data that they would need in order to produce those quotes, and we're just not going to have it. So we would in the next 2 months in order to see that. So that's why there's a difference between what we can do with Cigna, who has a lot of historical data, and somebody else.
So the choice would be not going out to, would be, if we decided we wanted to go out to a fuller bid now, we risk losing this 10.2% increase.
Correct.
And but for the next step, as we get the data, can we get, we had discussed going out to a fuller.
Yep, they're gonna,
for future years.
Kirsty's gonna come out from Barstow and do a presentation on what they see in the market, and then if you decide, yes, you wanna definitely see the fuller bid, we will talk about who we will be going with, who we'll be soliciting bids from, and some advantages, disadvantages. Some of that may be non-public because there's negotiations involved in that, but yeah, you'll have that option in the next 2 months and see what that is.
Ms. Minot?
So can you give us an idea of this 10.2% increase if we stayed with school care? How much of that additional cost is that to the district on our share of the premiums?
Yep, so this year our annual cost, again, this is all in, this isn't taking the employees, is $14,704,734. The renewal rate will bring it to $16,239,516, or a 10.4% increase on average.
Thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Dunn?
Just appreciate that we went out. I mean, knowledge is power. Nobody wants an increase, but to know that we're in a better position than we could be otherwise is helpful to know.
Yeah, and was their Kirsty, who represents us, that was her conclusion based on what's coming down.
Mm-hmm.
And those rates have ranged from 8-10% all the way up to 35%.
Yeah.
There's significant increases happening, and it's not just with Cigna, but other vendors as well. So, yeah.
Our health care vendor is also in our various collective bargaining agreements, right? So
It is. So even the reason we went to the easy path with Cigna is because they can do the best of mimicking the plan. School care provides some additional supports around that, but they could mimic and would become what's closest to the CBAs. But ultimately, you would have to negotiate with 9 groups.
Since they're our vendor and we already have a contract, do you need a vote on this, or?
Yeah, I would ask that you have a vote to recommend that we do renewal with school care and authorize the interim superintendent to
So we
sign
will
it.
put that out.
For clarity, as you know, I went and ran and got elected to their board, so I will not be signing it. I've signed it in the past, but now that I'm there, I feel it would be a conflict. So having the superintendent do that would be
Well,
best.
We appreciate your willingness to give up more of your time to keep an eye on that. Thank you. Okay, any other questions? All right, we will leave that to after public comment. Ms. Campbell is stuck in traffic, so why don't we do the discussion on the construction manager and then the loan resolution?
Yep. The construction manager recommendation came out of the Capital Facilities Committee that met on January 14th. Just for clarity, in 2024, there was a bid process to where an RFP went out for two components. One was for pre-construction services, and then we made it a two-part, that if they were interested in also being the construction manager of the project, they would also give us what their number was for that. And it had in there that gave the board the option that if they were not happy with the pre-construction services, they could bid out again and get a new number. Harvey won both of those components of the organizations that submitted. So we are in the process of that pre-construction. We have them through construction documents. And then the next phase, as we're starting now, trying to start to mobilize, this contract will take care of all that. So there's a couple different components. There is an A133 for insurance and bonds. There is an A133 base contract. And then there's a A201, which is general conditions, and then just their rate sheet. So we will know what the final number will be in September. There'll be an amendment to the contract for what they call Exhibit A, which will list out all of the components of the contract and what the guaranteed maximum price is. Because we don't have 100% construction documents yet, we're still working under the pre-construction documents. Okay?
I know most of the board was here for the meeting, the Joint Finance Capital Facilities meeting, but does anyone have any additional questions? Ms. Hastings?
Mr. Dunn, could you just explain again, so the public can understand too, why we feel that this is an important position to add to the construction of a new middle school?
So, obviously, with the discussions we've had, the method in which we're choosing to build the building, using a construction manager versus, say, what we did 15 years ago, design, bid, build. So it's the method in which we're using and the contractor we're using to use it. So when we did the design, bid, build, we would right now have to wait until August to get 100% documents. Then you would have to go through the process of bidding that out. You're looking at probably another 9 months to a year from now. As you know, in our numbers, we have pre-bid packages that we've already started working under the pre-construction component of this. And that's about $2.1 million in value. Also, between tariffs and the way the market is, we feel that doing this project under the construction manager method will be the best way for us to see those bids, work with the vendor, and try to manage the costs of this. We know it's a big ticket item, and we feel that this is the best way to go.
Thank you.
Ms. Sadowski, is that your hand?
Could you help me understand, we've had some constituent feedback about concerns around traffic, for example. And this role, is that to, what role will the construction manager play in helping to address those concerns, if any?
So it'll be more the architects and the traffic consultants that are helping with that. There is a different traffic component, which is going to be the construction traffic component, which is temporary. Mm-hmm. So Harvey will help with that.
But they're not the decision maker.
But they're not going to be when the project's all done and people are dropping kids off. We know it's a tight site, but that's what we'll deal with. But we'll be working with the architects on that. As a matter of fact, I think the next building committee, traffic is on that agenda item.
Excellent, thank you.
Which is, I think, next Thursday.
Next Thursday, yes.
So.
And it's not
but
on
that's
the
where
calendar. The district council.
Yeah, no, I did.
It was on my list.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the traffic report's on the website too.
Yes, thank you. Other questions, comments? Okay, we will save that vote. Our second vote. Loan resolution?
Yeah. Let me go back. So.
Sorry, I'm just screwing with your order.
Yep, that's okay. No, it's fine. No big deal. So this is the I handed out, and there's copies there, of the loan resolution that was prepared by legal counsel. So in front of you is the certification of minutes and the actual resolution that was introduced on December 1st. Sure. Okay. That was introduced on December 1st. You had a public hearing on that on January 5th. The Finance Committee took it up at its January 14th meeting. And then tonight is the night we need you to vote on that resolution. That process satisfies the legal requirements that we need in order to pass for bond counsel to make a recommendation that we have the authority to go and borrow. So that's the legal requirements. Now we'll start moving to the bonding and financing component of it. So we have updated our what's called preliminary official statement. We have submitted the audit, which was successfully completed. We also have questions from S&P for the rating agency. That phone call is next week on the 4th. So they will take all of that data, and similar to what was just announced by the city, they will determine what our rating is, which right now is AA-, and whether it stays that, and what their long-term outlook is. So we're in the process of compiling all that data for them. But it's a voluminous amount of information that they want. So it's just important to understand that this process just starts the legal component, and once this is passed and approved by bond counsel, that opens up basically the line in which we will begin to borrow. There's still a number of steps that are left, but what we fit into that overall authorization, that's the up to amount. Doesn't mean you're going to borrow it all. So just to give you two examples, in my history here, when I got here in 2012, there was actually an outstanding authorization from the high school from 1994 for a couple thousand, like $32,000. It was never released. Now, could I run out and borrow it 20 years later? No, because you couldn't justify it. Project's long been up. When we did the elementary school, that was a $62.5 million authorization, and the board rescinded the other $7.5 million because it didn't need it. So that's all it is. It's like a credit line, and then you borrow against it. Doesn't mean you're going to borrow it all, but that's what the project that you approved on October 23rd. Okay.
Ms. Minna?
Just so it's clear for us and the public, so that means that when we do actually go out and issue specific bonds, the board will vote on the amount, the term, we'll know the exact interest rates and things like that.
Yep. So
at that time.
Once this is completed, we have to submit everything we've done. Bond counsel says, yep, you met all the obligations. We will begin to bring you documents like that have a variety of different options. They're all estimates because we don't know what the true number is actually till the day you borrow, but they'll be able to hone in. Once you borrow at S&P rates, they'll be able to give us a better idea of what the rates look like. And then we'll put that modeling in. I mean, you're going to have enough data to say, am I comfortable for an initial amount for X amount? Am I comfortable with 20, 25, 30? Here's a general interest rate, and then how we will manage that, how we're looking to stagger it. So you'll have opportunity to do that. But yes, once those bids come in, we will inform you. They will give us, the last one we did, when we did the HVAC project, that was 201 pages that they give us of, here are all the bidders, this is what they do, and then they tell you this is who we recommend based on who provided the best financial option. And you will vote, and then when you have pages, you think a mortgage is bad. Wait till you see what you've signed. We'll have them all lined up on here. Okay.
Additional other questions? Again, I know most of the board was here for the Joint Capital Facilities Finance Committee meeting, and I believe online is a number of different scenarios. We looked at 20, 25, 30, splitting the bond up into different, not bonding all of it at once. Do you want to just discuss that a little bit, Mr.?
Yep. So I did a simple thing I was asked today. Could I put, we've talked about 80 million as an initial start. So in front of you, and that right there, we did two different ones. 20-year, and a 30-year, and using your stabilization to create flexibility, okay? So you should see up at the top, it'll say Plan 2026C, and it has today's date, and it says 20-year EP, that stands for equal principal, and then year 2. So historically, when you've borrowed, you've done an interest in year 1, and then principal and interest in year 2. You can do principal and interest in year 1 if you want, just more money outlay. We'll look at all those options, but I just did what historically you've done. So if you look at this first one, and I've labeled each of them A through Q, A is the fiscal year, so FY 2027 is coming up. Then in column B, that is the outstanding debt for just the Runlet HVAC and the elementary project, just those 2 items, okay? This next year is the last year for the HVAC at Runlet. That was only to be built for a 20-year. The other thing is that we did the steam to gas when Concord Steam went out of business. We did not put high-end equipment. We put middle grade because we knew that school was going to be up, and the specs for that weren't going to match a new building likely. So anyway, that HVAC is paid off. Okay. Then you have the Runlet principal and interest on $80 million. So that's the run out. You can see in 2027 it's $2.8 million, and then it jumps to $7 million in year 2 because it's principal and interest. Now I account for no bond premium, which is what the investor will pay you to borrow for the borrowing of the money. You don't pay interest or principal on that money. Then any project savings that might be achieved. And then there's the stabilization fund. So this is the fund where you maintain 5% of your general fund and you put it away. So when you have these hits, you can bring it down and try to make it more manageable, okay? Then you see the state building aid that we get on the HVAC and the elementary project. And then you see in column I, there's your net debt service. So right now, taxpayers are paying, the tax impact is that amount, the 96 cents, the $1.12, $1.13. If you go to column K, this is the valuation. We're going to assume the valuation doesn't change at all. That means the city is not going to grow at all for the next 30 years. No real growth, nothing. And that's what we usually factor into here. Real growth, new property coming on. So assume for 30 years none of that's happening. We're also going to assume your budget's not going to grow at all. As you can see, trying to be very conservative. There's nothing that's going to happen. There is the 5% that we maintain of the general fund budget. And then a column N is the amount that's over or under. When you see negative, you start to save again. When you're above, what we try to do is bring that down, okay?
And just to go back,
Yeah.
the reason you're showing no growth in the budget, I think, is because we put aside 5% of our budget for debt service. And when we're not spending it on debt service, we put that money away
Yep.
for projects. So you're showing that, I think somebody said, well, then you're just going to grow your budget more too. So you're showing what it would look like if we keep the budget the same and we're just using what we've been putting
away. And letting the other debt, the debt in column B just decline.
Decline.
Yep. Okay. So then you have in column O what 5% of the general fund for debt represents on the tax rate. So next year be 68 cents on the tax rate for just general fund, but then an additional 28 cents or $112 on a $400,000 home in order to mitigate that 28 cents.
And while we don't know for sure, we could assume, how long would it be for the second bond to come in?
So the reason we chose the 80 million was to try to get us to August, October timeframe based on cash flow projections, very early cash flow projections, to be able to pay for that so that we could try to get another bond in 2029 and try to create some leeway. So the pressure isn't as much.
But there would, because we're not showing that here, you would assume that it would be slightly less than the same amount if we used all of the bonds.
So if you go on to column D and you see 75 million, but you see no value, because I have an N there, I'm not enabling that. But yes, and the thing I'm you'll see when we do it, I can say, okay, in 2029, if it hits, this automatically all changes. But yes, that's if you borrowed all the rest of it. And I also have this set up to where I can do potentially 2 bonds. So you do bond 1, bond 2, bond 3, because maybe we just do all enough to do the construction. Because as I said, you have replacement cycles for technology and equipment. You might not want to borrow that. That is all factored in here. And they are things that we did back off on. Same thing with contingency. You'd have to spend an awful lot of your contingency on this project. Hopefully we don't, but that's all factored in here. And the less we spend, the less that second bond could be. And you may get to the end and say, you know what, we do want to do maybe a 5-year bond and do some technology and stuff
Furniture.
for the building, whatever, your furniture, because you don't want it to hit the whole general fund. So, a lot of flexibility, and the nice part about this is you have a lot more controls. And as I think I've said to you before, this is one of the few things in your budget that you have a good amount of control that once you lock in, goes down. There's not much else that goes up. I mean, goes down, sorry. I joke around on the other one, but that's, yeah.
Just one more. I know that you have reached out to the city's financial business manager, finance director, that's the word I was looking for.
Assistant City Manager for
For
Finance,
finance.
I think is his title.
Yeah, Deputy City Manager for Finance, is my understanding. Yes, I did.
And what flexibility do we have about when we start this bond in relationship to the other bonds that the
Yeah.
city? You're showing 2027 start.
Yeah, so that was the 20-year. If you look on so that'd be your next budget. If you look at the 30-year and you go to that far right column, you can see it's a little smoother, a little bit lower number. But take a look in 2027. I look at a 36-cent increase or $144. Do you see that? But notice in column N, it says 1.735 million.
Yep.
Take a look under G. See the 3.5 million?
No.
In G?
Under column G, see
yeah,
that
at the
up top?
at the top.
That's what's left in your stabilization fund. So if you wanted to say, we don't want any payment next year, you can do that. That's the flexibility that
So
provides
we
you.
could push the first year of ours so
To
that it
2028.
isn't the same as the first year of the police station.
We can
Or-
move this stuff however you feel is appropriate
could-
so we get some
Or we
growth
could pour more out in the stabilization at different points.
That's correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank
So I wanted to show you those two options. What they,
Well, that's, sorry, and that's true for the 20 or the 30 year. Like we
correct.
I was
I
gonna
know,
say,
well, there's only
There's just-
356.
in GY is it 356?
I consumed all most of the money in the smoothing
I
in the
gotcha.
20-year,
I
but if
see.
you said,
got
hey,
it.
I want to delay it, you'll see all that flexibility. So
That
it'll
makes
be,
sense. Thank you.
okay?
That will be, that will be something that hopefully can ease the minds of taxpayers a little bit, because I know we all get it, the emails and phone calls and such, all these big bills all at once. If there's a way that we can say, look, we'll take a break for a year, and then hopefully that will make people feel better about it somewhat.
Yeah. And I think I noted on the bottom of there, too, on each of these, I have an assumed rate of 3.5% for a 20-year and 4% for a 30-year. And the financial advisors are pretty comfortable with that. As you see from the city press release, the city did 30-year at 3.715%. And as I said, we're using 4. I would hope we could be somewhere around there. We're a little bit lower rating than them because they're the authority. But I also don't, as I said, I don't have any bond premium. I have no other savings that there might be. There's no interest earned on the bond proceeds, no real growth, no budget growth. So
So this is worst case scenarios.
I'm just trying to say have at it for the 80 million. But we will massage this as we work through the process. So you asked about the city has 2 projects that at least, I discussed. The Beaver Meadow Clubhouse project, which in year 1, they are not showing an annual property tax increase. But in year 2, on a $400,000 home, they show $3. year 3, $6, year 4, $9, and year 5, $12.
Oh, so we do theirs a little different than ours, huh?
Well, they're smoothing it like we are.
Okay,
but
they're just
you know,
moving it differently.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're spreading it a little differently. So, you know, we were having a conversation. Do we go up first and then they smooth and you kind of crisscross? Because once you lock in, like I said, you're going to go down. Or do we just try to be, I mean, our buildings are 50 plus years, easily. The city's got, what, 23, 26 square miles to maintain? We got about 1.1, 1.2 million square feet. Do we try to stretch things out more than the city? I think that's a discussion you just need to have and decide that, yep, go longer and they bond a lot more often than we do, and they got a lot more square miles to deal with than we do. But our goal is to make as little impact as we can. And on that note, I wish the state would step up and give us building aid, as we're number 1 on the list. But you know, I hold out hope until the shovel's in the ground, unless there's other legislation. So we'll see.
And then the building aid that is shown on this document is building aid from former projects
From 2010.
that we are still receiving.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And back then, that was one of the reasons why we did the 3 schools at once, because we were going to get building in all 3. Where if we had done one, the moratorium was kicking in that June. So that's why we took advantage. Great project.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Dunn? Comments?
I mean, I will just say, you know, we know, because budget season is coming, that this is just one aspect of the decisions that we have to make for our finances for our district. I appreciate the diligence. I would expect that we would be as diligent in our year-to-year costs, you know, and we're going to have some decisions to make this year. And I appreciate that I feel very well informed about this debt service going into budget season, and I just really appreciate it.
Anybody else? Seeing none, I will open it up for public comment. If people want to speak, they can come to the microphone. Is there a sign-in sheet up there?
There is.
Okay,
Yep.
great. Someone could give it to me. Mr. Schweiker.
Button on this?
No,
Put it
just
close
pull it
should
right
be
up.
on.
Perfect.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of the board. I'm Roy Schweiker from Zone A, and I couldn't find any, minutes or packet for this meeting, so I just walked in and grabbed the 2 things that are here. And very interesting. And one thing I noticed is among the far more thicker whatever we had last time, there was a plan that was called 2025F. And 2025F worked like a home mortgage. In other words, what Mr. Dunn is talking about here is you pay an equal amount of the principal every year, and then you pay however much interest you owe. Whereas a home mortgage, you pay the same amount every year, and it's more interest in the beginning and more principal at the end. And so the advantage of 2025F was that it pushed some of the payments further back. And to my mind, that's a good thing. And another thing I wanted to talk about is, you remember there was a big public hearing and a bunch of people said we needed a new school and a bunch of people said they couldn't afford it. And the board decided they would go 100% with the people that needed a new school, build the fanciest school you can, don't try and cut it back, but you did make some sort of a commitment that the price wouldn't increase. And the thing is, I see it kind of like the same thing as a home mortgage, that the price to the homeowner, whomever, is not what the district pays for the principal, but the payments every year. In other words, if you can't afford this year's mortgage payment, it's too expensive, regardless if you think the overall price is good. So I think that in line, Mr. Richards said, yes, you already voted to build it. But my impression is you voted to build it, based on a certain amount of payment, which was a little bit over $200 on a $350,000 home. So I think that you need to plan your bonds so that when they come in, that's what it looks like is, a little over $200 on a $350,000 home, or otherwise you need to start cutting things, just like if the bids came in too high. You'd want to keep cutting things to keep that number down. And so that's one advantage of the equal payments is by, pushing things back. It makes the, earlier years better, which is when people are going to be struggling the most. And I noticed that the assumptions are much more conservative on this than on the ones that were handed out at the other meeting. So in a way, that means that, probably he can do better than this. On the other hand, saying that the city valuation will be the same isn't necessarily a good assumption, because we have a guy named Dupree who keeps taking property that's presently on the tax rolls off. So the valuation may actually go down instead of staying the same. I mean, not that, it won't go up because home prices are up, but overall, the overall, percentage that the commercial properties are paying may keep going down if they keep getting converted to nonprofits or state buildings or so forth. So I think, maybe you need to do that. And the last thing I would point out is somebody may try to do like I did and say, well, okay, if bond one for $80,000 will cost us this much, then if I double it, that will be what the two bonds would cost. And the answer is that doesn't work, because Mr. Dunn has been applying the stabilization fund heavily to the first bond, and you don't have enough money to apply it to the second bond. So in fact, the sum of the two will be much higher than doubling that number there. At least that's the way I figured it out. Mr. Dunn seems to be nodding his head. So,
Yeah. Yep, there's options.
So what I'm going to encourage you to do, I thought we would have the numbers tonight of what the interest rate would be and that sort of thing. I'd like to encourage you to, look at that F again, to make the equal payments, and also to stick with the 30 years, because that's the only way I think you're going to be able to keep that number down to what you promised when people voted for the building the new school. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brown?
Hello again. So I'm still not seeing the debt that was bonded for the buses or the HVAC, the 18.5 million in the debt. And I know in column B, talking about RMS HVAC and the 3 elementary schools, but there's also this building that there's still debt existing on this renovation project for Liberty Street. And this is something that I brought up the last time I was here, that 18, and it's actually 18.5 million. It was 16.1 million for the high school HVAC that allows Train to switch out chillers in the elementary schools, which is surprising that that's part of a high school HVAC project, and $1.5 million for buses. So where is that debt? That debt is not reflected. I'm also really disappointed that this meeting for 168.77 million was not advertised more prominently. If you look on the website, it's not on your website. You have to go to the news at the bottom, and it's the second page of the news. That's crazy. This is so much money. And the city just bonded 50.7 million. So that adds to the city debt. So 148 million existing doesn't include, that includes taxes. The 50 million that was bonded doesn't include interest. That also doesn't include Memorial Field. It doesn't include all of the police station. It doesn't include 168.77 million for middle school. This is going to be devastating, and you're not looking at the accurate debt numbers. And I apologize, I had to leave before Jack spoke, we had our swearing in, and Jack was talking about, oh, we did the 3 elementary schools, isn't that wonderful? But in between the 3 elementary schools construction and now, there was the YMCA, there was looking at the 5 to 8 grade reconfiguration, there was Clinton Street and paying for 400 pages of schematic design before we even owned that property, and then broken ground and the traffic nightmare that currently exists over there, and there's no infrastructure over there, and there was all that work, all that money that went into the middle school project between when the 3 elementary schools were built and now. So, the revaluation is going to happen, and it's going to hurt, and other municipalities are saying that. We heard about that from our assessor. The assessor said 1/3 of the properties are going to go up, 1/3 are going to stay the same, and 1/3 are maybe going to go down. The ones that are going to go up, it's the people who can afford it the least. We have 1,033 mobile home owners, and those folks are going to see their tax bill triple. And that's without this debt. So this is devastating. This is 30 years. This is not going to attract investors to Concord when they look at how expensive the taxes are, the debt service for our city. The school this plan is 214,000 square feet for fewer kids. Runlet is 165,000 square feet. It housed 1,010 students 10 years ago. There's 756 students now, and the building is how much bigger? 40,000 square feet bigger? I just feel like we're spending way too much money unnecessarily, and it's going to hurt a lot of people, and it's not fair. And there has not been communication publicly between the city and the school. There is a joint city-school committee. They had one meeting in 2 years. There was another one. I don't know if it happened or is it next week?
It happened last week.
Okay, had last week. One.
That's not, no, I'm not going to argue.
Okay,
Go on.
but this is it. That's where people could talk and share, and there could be this worked out. How are we going to afford Memorial Field? We can't. I mean, the police station is too big too. So these are just huge issues, and we're not talking about how we're going to take care of our residents, and that's the conversation that we should be having. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Stacy.
David Jordan or Jordan? Did I get that wrong? Right. Jordan?
You did it right this time. You did better last time.
I know.
Jordan.
Jordan.
Ward 3. Thank you for sending on for all the information that you sent to me. I also got the same information from the city. And thank you very much for not changing the schedule, because I went by the information that you sent, so I came prepared with this. So you stuck to it, so that's good. I'm just here to basically explain, kind of piggyback a little bit. I didn't increase any valuation. I took everything just status quo as is, okay, and compared it to a $400,000 house for city and town. And that's city and the school district, sorry. So first year, we know you're not going to be paying any interest, or relatively little, so it's not going to impact the taxes. What's going to happen, though, in 2026 is everybody's going to get a little upset because of the reval and what's going to happen with the reval. Immediately, they're going to blame the city and the school for all the bonding that they did, and the bonding isn't even going to have impacted your taxes in 2026. You're not going to start seeing that until 2027. So I took the information that's here, Runlet, the clubhouse, and the police station. So in 2027, based on bottom line what's here, a $400,000 house is going to see a $703 increase on their taxes, bottom line. 2028, it goes to $1,158. 2029, $1,189, and $1,208 in 2030. Take those numbers and add it on to once the bond hits, those numbers will also increase, and everybody needs to understand that going forward here. So my personal situation, I pay $8,000 now. In 2030, I'll be paying $12,000. And that will be just with the bond, and no increase to school or city budget. So I just want everybody to realize what's going on. I understand that the vote's going to happen. The vote's going to bond for $168 million. All I ask is that everybody do their due diligence on this stuff, because like Councilor Brown said, you are going to impact the mobile homes, the condominiums, and the multifamily. So if you rent, you're still going to get hit with a high increase in the taxes. No way around it. The landlord's not out to lose money. They're into it for making money. So just be really careful and concerned about everybody that's going on. So that's all I have to say. I did have one question, though, so somebody can answer that later on. Whether the stabilization fund, is this for all of the schools? Is this money set aside for all the schools, or is this set aside just for the Runlet project?
It's been set aside for the Runlet project.
Just for that one, okay. Is there others for the other schools?
We have other reserve funds.
Okay.
This is, we've been putting money, it's our building construction fund that we've been putting
Okay.
money away in.
All right.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to testify? If you could say your name for the record.
Yes, and I will sign in as well. My name is James Richards. I am a resident of Ward 3, that's Zone A. I would just like to briefly testify in favor of the loan resolution. I know there have been questions in the past as to how this project has gone from $87 million in 2017 to its current cost. I actually want to commend you on the cuts that you have made. If you look at construction data from Construction Analytics, a reputable and well-known construction firm and consultant, $87 million in a non-residential project in 2017 with a 15% contingency would be $165 million in 2026. If you also add the fact that building this middle school at the South Street site added an additional $10+ million to the original estimate from the broken ground site, you're at about $175 million. That's pretty close. It is inflation. Major drivers of inflation are lumber, steel, concrete, and the labor costs. All of those things apply to this. Why do I say this? Is because even if we don't look at the high rates of inflation that occurred during COVID, there's a 4.4% increase annually. So if you would delay this project even by 5 or 6 years, you would be very close to a $200 million price tag. I see no benefit to this community for delaying and adding those additional costs. I trust that you will analyze a large number of various scenarios with regards to financing and come up with one that is most equitable to the taxpayers such as myself. And I want to say thank you for your efforts. That's all.
Anyone else like to testify? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. I will start by accepting a motion to renew our school care contract.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Meeker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Higgins. Discussion.
Gotta do what we gotta do, guys. Can't
I
not
mean, it's
have
better
our
than the
insurance
alternative.
policy.
Yes. Unfortunately. Ms. Hastings, did you have?
No.
Oh, okay.
And Jack, you now serve on the board, right? And you don't have any concerns about their internal organization. I know that they were concerned. They were having some internal turmoil after this came out. Organizationally, how do you feel confident that
I do.
they're going to make it through?
I do.
All right.
Yeah.
And there are no indications at this time that we would expect a further surprise assessment.
Only 6 months in, but so
I know.
far, so good.
Thank you. Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. We'll do it in the order we had the discussions. I'll take a motion to extend our contract with Harvey Construction to serve as the construction manager for the, I'm like,
Sorry.
I'm going to say
You wanna change
construction
words a bit.
20 times in
Yes,
that
you would.
motion.
Let me just
So
back
I will
off of
take
this
that
one
motion
second.
if anyone would like.
I'll
to.
make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Jack, can you please put it back
Yeah,
up?
yeah. Sorry. Here, I'll do it. Yeah, just change it to the board of. I thought I had edited it for you, but
So, recommend that move that the Board of Education enter into a contract with Harvey Construction to serve as construction manager for the new middle school as the firm is the successful bidder in accordance with policy 322. Is that your motion?
That is my motion.
And is that your second?
That's my second.
Great. All those in favor? Any discussion? We've had a successful history with Harvey. We also have toured a number of schools, including a number of schools that people have told us that we should be emulating, that Harvey is working on. Hopefully we will have similar success.
They've done well for us in the past.
Yes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. And then we will move to the loan resolution, which, as noted, we are not approving a specific bonds. We are approving essentially going out to market for bonds. Would someone like to move?
I would be more than happy to move to approve the proposed motion as presented by Jack Dunn above.
You can read the first.
Yeah, I move that the Board of Education approve the following loan resolution that was introduced on December 1st, 2025, and the public hearing held on January 5th, 2026, and recommended by the Board's Finance Committee as required by bond counsel and the district's attorney. I'm happy to read through.
No, I think just to highlight, is there a second for the motion?
Second.
Second by Ms. Higgins. I just highlight the amount is $168,777,480. The approved amount for this project is minus another $13 million, which includes rebates that we expect to get, but we have to include the full amount in the bonds because of bond law.
Very, very similar to your budget. Every year you approve budget, you have grants, you actually spend that money before you get it back. So this is the same principle as you do every year with your general fund budget.
For my everything.
Yep.
Don't let them mail it.
Discussion. Ms. Higgins.
I would just like to acknowledge to voters, rich and poor, old and young, large and small, et cetera, that it's our job to work together to try to mitigate the negative consequences spending money can have. And this middle school project has brought out the best and the worst of a lot of us, and it's divided our community, and it's brought our community together. But at this point, the only thing I really feel we can do as a board is facilitate a seamless and meaningful progression toward the completion of a building and work hard to keep costs as low as we can every time we have a decision around a dollar amount. And that holding off on this, I mean, you know me, I've been on the no side of a lot of this, but we are to the point where we just have to get this job going and do the best we can to keep it manageable and affordable. Two crazy words right now. But I want the people out there to know when I vote yes, I'm not saying, yay, let's spend the money. I'm saying, this sucks, but we have to do it. And that's sort of where I feel right now.
I certainly am in this similar place in that I am very cognizant of the costs and of the revaluation. I am also very cognizant that we have looked extensively at alternatives, including renovation, and renovation is more expensive, especially now that we've updated our seismic studies. The building is not going to last. We're now, I feel like, racing a clock before we have something that requires, significant investment. Going to continue to look to move forward. I hear a lot about the size of the building. I do, again, want to point out that we are going with what are state required standards for size, that Runlet classrooms do not meet state standards. And even some of the new classrooms will still be a little small. We will have some public spaces that are a little big, but for the most, except for the auditorium, which was very high on the community's wish list, and is not adding significant new spaces that we don't have in the building now. They would just be better organized spaces, and classrooms will be at standards. So, anyone have anything else? Ms. Meeker?
Yeah, I will just say that I agree with Barb that, we're on a path now, right? We've made decisions. This is the direct result of those decisions. So this is just a natural progression of us getting a shovel in the ground in the spring, which as we get closer, I feel excited. I feel like, oh my gosh, we're really gonna do this thing. And so I continue to be committed to monitoring costs, to being excited about the project, to having really great firms that are gonna help us along the way understand what is going on as this progresses. And I also understand that while we are an autonomous board, we are very much part of the city of Concord, that discussions with staff are happening, that city and community committee is committed to keeping those communications going between board and council. These are all things that we will have our opportunity to maintain as this goes on. You know, I know that big projects are happening at the same time with the city and the school district. You know, I don't want to see us as in competition with each other.
Right.
I want to see this as a collaborative effort to make our city the best it can be for our families, for our kids, for our taxpayers. You know, we're all on the same path together. We're in a rock and a hard place with expenses right now. We're all doing our due diligence. The city council has made decisions as well, approving projects that we don't have any control over. You know, but I'm not going to say they shouldn't have done that, right? I'm not going to sit here and say, well, you shouldn't build a police station. I understand that's a priority for them as well. So it's really about communicating those priorities to each other, and I think we're working really hard to do that. So as far as I'm concerned, this is just the next natural step. I'm pretty excited about it.
Anyone else?
Just wanted to really recognize Mr. Richards' point just about that over the last 5 years, of course, the cost of living in all areas has increased, and construction costs are where that has been seen the most. And as we have heard, once prices are up, it is very difficult to get them down, and the longer we wait on this, the higher the prices will be, and that is something that we should think about.
Ms. Sadowski?
I wanted to express appreciation. I do think that moving the assessed value to 400,000 was a good move. I think that, you know, I really hope this represents under-promising and over-delivering in much the same way the elementary schools did. You know, but at the end of the day, we have 13 million in rebates and credits, stabilization money. We already are putting 5% towards debt service, and waiting is simply too expensive. Some of the square footage concerns do come around accessibility, the ramp that has been suggested. And I would definitely think we should keep that, because access for all students
Yes.
is so vital. And when Renlet was built, all students were not included and on the radar in the same way.
That is a good point. Yes, Renlet is not a very accessible building. Anyone else? All right, this is a roll call vote.
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. DuBois?
Yes.
Ms. Hastings?
Yes.
Ms. Higgins?
Yes.
Ms. Meeker?
Yes.
Ms. Minot?
Yes.
Ms. Sadowski?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
And myself, 9-0. Motion passes.
Motion passes. I am going to ask for non-public. I just need to pull up, say for a second. Under RSA 91A3, that is not where the exception is. Where is it is about security issues, which is under a different part of 91A. I think it's, which is not in my book.
You can just say 91A3 regarding security and safety.
91A3 regarding security and safety, and matters that are discussed in public would likely adverse the reputation of any person other than a member of a public body itself. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Higgins.
I'm in a seconding mood.
Any discussion? If not, this is a roll call vote.
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. DuBois?
Yes.
Ms. Hastings?
Yep.
Ms. Higgins?
Yep.
Ms. Meeker?
Yep.
Ms. Minot?
Yes.
Ms. Sadowski?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
And myself, yes.
Ms. Gallo, could you please stay?
Surprise.
Sorry.
But we're not coming back. We should.
Yep. Did you finish the roll?
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Motion passes. We will be going into non-public. We expect to only adjourn when we come back to public session, so we will allow Concord TV to leave. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.
Congratulations.